Hello, my name is Nicole Huffman. I am doing a presentation on language acquisition, a proposal. Today, I'm super excited to discuss this topic as it's been a personal experience along with this experience driving me into going to school to become an American Sign Language interpreter and to learn the language, and so that I am able to communicate with my son, who happens to be deaf, as he was adopted at 5 years old with no language. So we learned firsthand what it means to be limited in language and for the brain to be truly affected by not having the input it needs to develop. Just as Ludwig Wittgenstein explained, the limits of my language are the limits of my world. This has been truly devastating to see as our son comes to us without the words to express how he is feeling, to be able to develop 1-2 words at a time, but there are no pronouns to explain who did this, where, what, why. As language, you are able to talk about anything, and you can do that in American Sign Language. So this presentation is explaining the users of American Sign Language within the deaf community. We're going to be going over the history of American Sign Language and what it has meant to the deaf in this community. Then we're going to be looking at the consequences in this specific people group. And then a proposal, what we can do, and how language deprivation does not have to happen, and that language acquisition can happen. Here we go. Variety. So today we are talking specifically about children in a people group who are deaf and who use American Sign Language as their primary language. We are not talking about those who are able to access language through a spoken language. And so this is where the word variety comes from. Within the deaf community, there are those who are born into a deaf family and have language right away when they're born. They are able to truly thrive having a language right away. Then there might be deaf who are born in a hearing family, and the deaf are able to have either maybe they know a language, sign language, or they are able to get a cochlear implant and be able to access a spoken language through that. So we are talking about those whose primary language is American Sign Language, and they view their deafness as a culture versus a disability, just as in our photograph here. The next thing we're going to be talking about is history. This is the sad part. Something we have experienced personally, but there is also peer-reviewed research that has shown groups of children being deprived of a language. This is shown through the medical field, through the history of Alexander Graham Bell, and through education, with the medical field being the primary role to fix things, which is wonderful and very much needed. But what has been lacked is the importance of language being acquired and making sure the child is acquiring any language versus just being fixed. As we go to Alexander Graham Bell, we know him as the inventor of the telephone, whereas the deaf community views him as an oppressor who fought the legislator to withhold ASL, American Sign Language, from deaf children. He advocated for only lip reading and speaking only. Whereas this brought out children who are cognitively underdeveloped. So throughout this, education was affected because of this. The legislation changed to take out American Sign Language from schools. So this bias of a spoken language as the only way for cognition and brain development to happen has been seen throughout education and throughout history. Which the main point of this, as we can see in our PowerPoint, is that language has not been prioritized. Along with the book by Humphreys, which says there are ways in which a society can become informed on language acquisition, which starts with professionals and policies understanding the historical prejudice against sign language. So because of this, all throughout the years, what has happened to our kids? We're going to move on to consequences. The consequences of this of only focusing on fixing a person and only oral language at all costs has led to severe discrimination within the deaf community. What's happened is lost time. So it takes parents and school systems to realize that this deaf child are not truly succeeding in a mainstream or oral program. So it's years. And by that time, the child has not acquired a language. And this comes from Language First, an organization, along with cognitive, behavioral, and emotional impairments. The effects of these behaviors and impairments have made another group of children who have been deprived of an effortless language that they could acquire. The third consequence is that when this happens, these children remain delayed and feeling stuck with limited language. And again, it does not have to be this way. Just as Language First said, every deaf child has the right to learn a language effortlessly. As we move on to the proposal, this is the exciting part, because language deprivation does not have to happen to this people group. There are peer-reviewed research out there showing the benefits of being bilingual. So bringing the bilingual approach, not taking away ASL and not taking away English. We can use both languages for language to support language. The second thing that we can do is to support a fully immersive school in order for those who have not acquired it between birth to age 5, create a program and a school that they can deliberately learn their first language. This is something that we have thankfully experienced with our son, as a teacher came in who knew how to deliberately teach a first language in American Sign Language. The third thing, parents and professionals to be educated in, as Language First explained, in evidence-based information and practice. That professionals, their responsibility is to be ahead of the research and to know the research that is already out there in order to bring all of the options to parents. Personally speaking, we did not have this information told to us when we first brought our son to the audiology doctor. So therefore, he received bilateral cochlear implants combined with the educational system at the time, putting him in to a hearing classroom at a mainstream school with an interpreter. And just think about it. Imagine you and I going into a Mandarin speaking classroom and there was an interpreter there. Would you be able to understand what the people were saying? No, we would not be able to understand without being deliberately taught each word. So for years, kindergarten, first, second, our child was again withheld American Sign Language because he was not truly taught it deliberately. We have an exciting option in our area, just as we talked about in the proposal, the fully immersive school. Right in our area in Grand Rapids, Michigan, we have the Adventure Center. And they have a passion for being allies with the deaf and providing a fully immersive opportunity for this specific group of people to learn a first language. They also offer incidental learning by gathering with other families and others who desire to sign in all signing abilities. This is an exciting opportunity for our area to be immersed in a language and for incidental learning to happen, for relationships to happen, and for an educational system that truly is meeting the needs of children who need to acquire a first language. So as we went over in this presentation, who are we talking about? Those who need a first language. The consequences of what has happened because ASL has been discriminated against and thrown out legally for people to teach it, for those to use it. In the Gannon book, it explains that those in the oral program, what happened were their hands were slapped anytime they used signing. So they were withheld a language that was effortless, that was helping their brain to be firing and for helping them understand, which is so needed. And again, providing the need of providing opportunities for professionals and parents to understand all their options and supporting those who are bringing an immersive experience in language. We thank you for your time, and we look forward to continuing this talk. Thank you.